Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the Friendly Council. This is a deck building series we're doing with the Friendly Open Group, and with me again is my co-host Hannes. Hello.
Hi, Miha. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and who did we invite this time, Hannes?
A very important person for the community, actually. So we have Lucas with us, who is one of the persons behind the Iron Throne .net. So one of the persons who made it possible that we could play through all the years of lockdown, and also a really, really good and amazing player. Welcome, Lucas.
Well, hi. Thank you for inviting me and thank you for the praise. Really humbled by your introduction there. Also, might be a um, good idea to give a shout out to the other developers for Iron Throne, for Stephen and Brian, and for Cryogen as well, for making it a perfect place for us to play online and share this great game.
Yes, absolutely. I can only support that 100%. I think, probably one of the most visited websites on my laptop. So thanks a lot, guys, for doing all the work. I think it's really, really appreciated, and it keeps the community together now in between the real live tournaments. Thank you. Okay. But we will also want you to present a deck, Lucas. What have you brought for us today?
Yeah, so I've been playing Night's Watch Reigns of Castamere a lot in the recent months, also at the Team Regionals tourney. And yeah, this is the deck I would like to talk about today.
Amazing. Nightspot Reigns. So, what is the general theme of the deck? So, what do you try to achieve? How do you play it in general?
I think there are a couple of versions you could try. I think most of them are centered around great ranging at the moment. It's a really, really strong card. It has an intrigue icon, it has high strength, dominates the board, and some versions like to go more in a steward and reserve boost direction. But my deck or my version of the deck is not doing the reserve boost stuff, but more on the ranging or ranger theme. Plays more rangers, and it also plays Jeremy Riker as a little spoiler to get the great ranging up to 3 icons. So it's basically a big guy deck, tries to control the board with Intimidate and other cool effects like Corin's removal effects and the tool set of Reigns of Castamere.
All right, very nice. So you foreshadowed already some of the tools you will be using, and hopefully not losing. Um, so where do you start off when you build this kind of deck? Do you start with characters or plot or maybe locations? What's important?
It really depends on the idea I have in my head when I build a new deck, but usually it will be characters.
Okay.
So for this deck, of course, as already spoiled, we will be playing 3 times Great Ranging.
Yeah,
Just
no
a
surprise.
really awesome card. It's rightfully restricted and probably the centerpiece of this deck. And along with Great Ranging come the other big characters in this deck, like Jon Snow from Watchers on the Wall. It's also a really awesome card and stable in Night's Watch Reigns decks. As with the stealth keyword, high strength and intrigue icon, can stand himself on offense and defense. Just all in all, a really, really strong card.
I agree. Personally, one of my absolute favorite cards in the whole game.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, then on to another big character that is always present in Reigns or intrigue focused decks is Bowen Marsh. It's not that high strength, but intrigue and an important power icon. Boosts the reserve, and of course he gets card draw through insight on all the stewards when they're attacking or defending in intrigue challenges.
Yeah.
We're not playing that many stewards, but drawing 1 or 2 cards for a challenge is always really nice.
Okay. So 3 classics. Do you have other big characters to support them?
Yes. We follow up with Tywin. It's a pretty recent card, but also fits really great in this deck. Has stealth and an intrigue icon, boosts the reserve, which is nice, and can do 2 challenges because he's not kneeling on military. And to close it up for the big characters, I think, is Corian Halfhand, which might be the odd one out in a Reigns of Castamere deck, but he's just overall a really strong character. He has renown to close the game faster. He has a strong reaction on the military challenge to put pressure on the opponent. Yeah, I really put him in many Night's Watch decks. Even if it's not fitting 100%, I think he's a strong card and a very, very good tool to control the board. So all of these characters are 3 times.
Right. That makes sense. So you have the big guys, and what do you play to support them?
Yeah, so for the supporting cast, you put in, of course, 3 times Saturn. It's just a really bonkers interaction with Great Ranging to have Saturn and Great Ranging attacking to just stand Great Ranging again. So he goes in 3 times.
Yes, everybody loves to see that in turn 1.
Definitely, yeah.
What...
And you can even keep it for Valador Harris because they're both, or both summed up are cost 10, which is quite nice. Another character to help with closing up the game would be Gren. I play him as a one-off in this deck. He synergizes really well with Tywin and with Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Then, of course, 3 times Maester Aemon from the core set for on-demand save. Then I'm playing some Rangers, which might be not that common, but Forest Patrol 3 times have been really, really strong. And I wouldn't miss them for some other cards you might expect in this deck, like some more stewards, the Chud stewards. But I think Forest Patrol, it gives you the edge in the military challenge, might even be for dominance. Or with our next character, Sir Jeremy Riker 3 times, they have a power icon, and then you have in the best case, 2 cost, 6 strength Bicon, which is really, really good.
Yeah, that's super efficient.
So yeah, let's see which characters we are still missing. I think you never go wrong with Old Forest Hunter. I'm thinking about playing those guys 3 times. I played them 2 and 1 off in the previous month, but I think 3 off is the right call. Their ability is really strong to get on demand economy. You tend to have quite a lot of cards from Great Ranging and Bone Marsh. And yeah, they really help you get that 1 or 2 gold in a pinch situation. Then another staple card, I think, would be Ranging Party. I put them in 2 times at the moment.
Yeah, they're just always, good value for money, right?
Definitely, yeah. And then 1 Samuel Tarly from the core set. It's just a really good small shot. His inside, boost the reserve, is steward. Yeah. And then we have spare boot as a one-off,
Mm-hmm.
as well as 3 steward at the wall, and to round it out, we have 3 finger hop as a 3-off to get some extra card draw.
Okay. So that would be 41 characters, quite a lot, right?
Yep. But I've noticed you can really go that high with all the duplicates in this deck. It's working out quite good.
Okay. I see. So, as you said, probably the most interesting part here is that it's a mix of rangers and stewards and not really steward focused as some other decks are, right?
Correct, yeah. I think the Rangers and then boosted by Jeremy Riker are giving you a really good edge in many matchups. Unexpected 6 strength military from the foe's patrol comes in really handy, and when they're then boosted to have a power icon, just earned some games for me.
Yeah, okay. And do you still get enough card draw? So I always have these opponents with their insane 3, 4, 5 cards that they can draw per challenge with Bow and Marsh. Does it still work okay in this mix?
Yeah, you won't get those insane intrigue challenges with multi-insight from this deck, but if we take a look at the other cards, the attachments, locations, and events later, we will see that it can work out quite well. 3-finger hop is always really nice. Draws you 1 or 2 cards. Great ranging in itself often draws you 2 cards per phase, or per round rather. So yeah, that works out okay.
Okay. All right, 41 characters. What do you put in next in your deck?
So I would say we can go over to locations. It's a rather small location package. We will start with the economy, and I think that 3 Great Halls, 3 King's Roads, and 3 Underground Vaults are more than enough for this deck, considering the plots we will put in later.
Okay, interesting. So 3 standard economy locations and nothing more.
Correct. And then to round it out, I've been playing with the wall in this deck as a one-off recently, but I think it makes more sense to put it in 3 times. But I haven't tested the 3-off wall version that much yet. And to bring it up to 13 locations, put in 1 Fist of the First Man, which you get for free with the Great Ranging, and which is also great synergy with Foe's Patrol to bring them out for free and not kneel your economy locations for it.
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay, then we will put in the attachments. It's really the most flexible slots, I think. I always put in at least 1 pinch of powder to have even more tools to put my opponent under pressure. Currently I'm playing 1 pinch of powder, but that might also be 2. Yeah, but I think at least 1 should be in this deck at any time. And then to close out the games a bit faster, I've put in 1 long claw as well. Haven't tested that much yet, but we will see if 1 long claw is enough, or it might be joined by a Lord Commander later on to get even more power gain. And to finish off the deck, I run 5 events. At the moment, it's 3 times fresh recruits. I think it's just a really awesome event to get on-demand duplicates for the characters you already have on board. You can get 2 great ranging copies with 1 fresh recruits, which is just insane. So even if you don't have it in your starting hand, you can just play fresh recruits, grab yourself 2 great rangings and play them out. Yeah, just awesome. So yeah, 3 times fresh recruits, and I run 2 put to the sword at the moment, which is quite unexpected, I think, in this deck. And you have a lot of tools to support this kind of event, with forest patrol to have that high military strength, and old forest hunter, which can help you get some challenge phase gold if you need 1 more for the event to fire off.
Okay, really nice. So you're then at 61 cards, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So there are some, who would only ever play 60 cards in a deck.
Yeah.
Which one would you cut to make them happy?
I think you could cut 1 ranging party, you could cut 1 old forest hunter. Yeah, those are, or even 1 steward at the wall, I think. Don't need that much economy and shots. That might be the obvious choices for getting down to 60 cards.
Okay. So, and you mentioned Corrin with Renown, Longclaw, even thinking about Lord Commander and adding additional copies of the wall. So, do I understand it correctly that in the past, one of the problems you had with the deck was that you were too slow and didn't gain power fast enough?
Yes, definitely. So some games I've played in real life and online I lost because I was just too slow. I didn't find the wall. I didn't find Corin to get renown, and the unopposed challenges weren't just coming in as I would like them to. So yeah, that were my most obvious losses, I think. So to combat that, I think increasing the power gain cards in this deck is the right call.
Okay.
But I'm still in the testing phase on how many and which cards to put in to combat that issue.
Yeah. And maybe to those who are used to more traditional wall defense decks, like maybe Builders or Valyrian Steel, it might seem strange that the characters are rather offensive, not offensive, they go into the offensive, and still, can you actually defend the wall then on a regular basis?
Yeah, so that I think is the dilemma you put your opponent in. If you manage to either go really offensive, he has to defend a lot to not let you go it unopposed, or even defend and win some challenges, but then you defend the wall because they don't have anything left standing. And if you're confident that your opponent can't get through your wall and you still get even some challenges back as a second player, for example, then the wall just gives you 2 power for free. So yeah, might be a game per game choice if you really want to play the wall, if you want to defend it 100% of the time, or if you're fine with getting it nailed some of the time, if you're putting a lot of pressure on your opponent as a reward for not defending it.
Okay, interesting. So, and what kind of plots do you use to basically run this rather costly deck, right?
Yes, so at the moment I'm running 4 economy plots, which is 2 times a late summer feast, which I think is just a perfect plot for Reigns of Castamere, because you can change your plot during the plot phase and only give your opponent 1 card if you do the intrigue first. And then I run one for the realm, which synergizes really well with Great Ranging, with Ranging Party and the Wall.
Mm-hmm.
And as a flex spot at the moment, I'm running Time of Plenty as well, to get
Okay.
one more card draw, to have above average gold and a good reserve.
Okay.
Then as a reset, I'm running Valar Morghulis, which fits the Maester Aemon and Duplicates on Demand Fresh Recruits theme really, really well. And of course, the Reigns of Castamere trick to just change it for a claim one plot is really good.
Yeah, super annoying.
Then I'm also running Political Disaster, which might be a bit unexpected, but most of the cards are dupable except Underground Vault and King's Roads, but the King's Roads you use anyway. And yeah, so you're not that sad about losing your Fist of the First Man, but Great Halls and the Walls you can dupe.
Mm-hmm.
And to finish the usual plot deck, I'm also running Force March, which is really good to control the opponent's board with all your small military dudes. The force patrols are also helping in that regard. Sometimes you're not that sad about kneeling one of those if it means you can have your Great Ranging or Jon Snow still standing.
Mm-hmm.
And then onto the scheme stack, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think Power Behind the Throne is a staple to have Great Ranging standing again if you didn't find Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
You also run the Pointy End, which is just an awesome scheme plot, which helps so many situations to get Voltron characters of your opponent back under control, or characters that are duped up and you need to reset the board with your Valar Morghulis the next turn. Yeah, Pointy End is just, all in all, really, really good. I wouldn't run a Rain stack without it, I think.
Yeah.
Then a second reset, Wildfire Assault, which is quite good, I think, but might be replaced with other schemes. But at the moment, I'm okay with it. And to round it out, I have Filthy Accusations, which is just another tool to control your opponent's board. And to help with the Shadow matchup, I have Exposed Duplicity.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess with Wildfire Assault, you have to see whether it hurts yourself more than the opponent or not, right? Because in some situation you really don't want to play it, right? But then you don't have to. That's the advantage, right?
Correct, yeah. And if we're on the topic of increasing the wall to 3 times and about defending it, you could also switch in a Game of Thrones for Wildfire Assault if you find out in testing that you don't need a second reset and your wall gets nailed every so often. So a Game of Thrones might help with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so one question that I have that we haven't really talked about, so the choice of agenda here, the Reigns of Castamere, we've seen this type of deck really become great in recent months. Won one of the friendly open events, I think it was season 7 or season 6, and it was played with Aloof in a part, and we've also seen the Prince that was promised that calls names Great Ranging at the start of the game, even though it does not have the power icon, but with Sir Jeremy Riker it of course can get it. So what is the advantage you have with the Reigns of Castamere compared to those two agendas?
Yeah, I think the toolbox of having the scheme plots is really key in a lot of matchups. That one more kneel with Filthy Accusations, discarding all the shadow cards against passive decks in the first or second round is really, really good. Destroying a Voltron or just putting away all the duplicates from one annoying key character on your opponent's side. It's really, really strong, and it forces your opponent to play around even one more challenge or challenge type rather. So they have to defend against intrigue to not let you win by 5. They have to defend military possibly because of put to the sword to not let you win by 5. And if you're running pinch of powder, they even have to defend power and not let you win by 5, which is really hard to do for most decks. So adding this agenda gives you all 3 challenges, which give you a huge advantage if you win it by 5. And that can really destroy a lot of decks.
Yeah, interesting. And one thing I would be missing, and that I always hate to see in the knights which aloof and apart, is outwit. Do you miss that?
Not yet, but outwit might be a good inclusion. But then you would have to include more maesters. I think you would have to run the new Samuel and Maester Mullen as well. Outwit is a really strong plot.
But you can't run it with the Reigns of Castamere, right? Because it's a scheme plot. So.
Correct, yeah. That is also a problem. Or you would have to change the deck for it to fit outwit in.
Yeah. So then, because that is always the question of like, how bad is Valado Harris for you?
There are situations where it's awful, and there are situations where I really don't care. Like I still have 2 or 3 big guys on my hand. I can keep Jon Snow, or I can keep Great Ranging with Saturn, which would be the dream Valado Harris setup, I think. You can always keep 1 Force Patrol in Shadows to bring it out after your opponent's reset for basically free. Yeah, so Valado Harris is not a problem, I think. There are times, of course, where it can hit you on the wrong foot, where you don't have the hand to support rebuilding it, rebuilding your board. But yeah, most of the times, I don't care about Valado Harris, especially with 2 late Summer Feast for the Realm and Time of Plenty to have a lot of econ after my opponent's reset.
So also Mad King's command is, given that you have few locations and attachments, also not that bad for you. Maybe even can be quite good, right? Because you typically will have some of the strongest characters remaining on board, right?
Yep, agreed. Haven't played that much against it yet, so my experience is not that telling against that plot, but yeah, on paper, this deck should come out on top against Mad King's command.
And do your characters have enough strength to survive a matchup with Burn?
On paper, I would say yes, but I've lost horribly against Tark Fealty Burn, which was played by Radek. But that might have been just Radek being an awesome player and destroying me. Might also have been a couple of things, like him being great and Targaryen Fealty, always a strong deck. Yeah, so on paper I would say Burn is manageable, but there are always that one game where you can't really put your finger on it, where it didn't work out.
Also, since one Burn event got restricted and they cannot play it together with Burn Daney, they cannot have this forcing, basically, let's say, Great Ranging to die just by spending enough cards. So usually they will play Burn Danny, and then they have to spend 2 events to get the ranging off the board, right? So that's also quite something.
Yeah, most of the time it's not even the ranging they're burning, in my experience, but rather the support cast, and then marching the great ranging or forcing you to kill it for military claim.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of characters that have printed strength 1 here, so they would all die at the same time with Blood of the Dragon if you have some bad
That's
luck.
definitely, yeah, that's
You
a
have
weakness in
the
deck.
+1 strength from the wall, of course, so if you draw that, then it's much more difficult to burn anything, I think.
Yeah, and Fist of the First Man also increases the strength of some of those guys. But yeah, Wall and Fist might help against Burn, but on the other hand, there are a lot of guys that would probably die for what's the plot called again?
Blood of the Dragon.
Blood of the Dragon. Yeah, thank you.
I can put it on screen so that everyone knows what we're talking about. There we are.
So regarding fresh recruits, you could also maybe put in one more builder at the wall, the small one cost power icon reducer chart to get that card when spare boot is already in your hand or might be dead. But most of the time, I think fresh recruits is value enough to just fetch you duplicates or 2 rangings with it, so that you don't worry about that one wasted pick for the builder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always great value if you can find a duplicate of a big character like that. I think that event was almost never played before. Great Ranging was printed with 2 traits, of course. But I never like to see a waste in a search effect. So when I play Delena, I know that I don't have any bastards in my deck at all. So I just, even though I don't need it for any other stuff, I put that extra bastard in hiding in my bar decks just so that she doesn't ever miss, if possible. So yeah.
I see, yeah.
Just have the
Yeah,
spare
makes
boot here.
sense. So yeah, spare boot is never a bad card, I think, to maybe control negative attachments on John and on Dywin and Bowen. So you're always happy to see him. Yeah, might be a good idea to just put that small builder chart back in to never miss with fresh recruits.
Yeah, but we are on 41 characters, so when we recorded the Star Crossing with Dennis the other day, I said that his 42 would be a record that will stand for some time, but almost got it here. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can tell us a bit about how the games usually go. So if you have the Intimidate army with some stand, you are probably trying to go first, right?
Yes, definitely. Most of the time, my opponent. So I open with Late Summer Feast. Most of the time, it has initiative 0. So opponents tend to win initiative first turn, make me the first player, and then sometimes you have enough money to just play great rangings, even though you're still playing fresh recruits. So fresh recruits plus great ranging would be 11 gold. If you have Great Hall in setup or King's Road in hand or Underground Vault on setup, that's possible to play fresh recruits for 3, look for 2 great rangings and put that into play as the first player on your late summer feast turn, which is a really strong opening, and your opponent really is not happy about making you first player after that. Tends to do really well with Saturn in setup. It's a small character, you can dupe him in setup. Yeah, so great ranging opening is the dream, I would say. But there's also possible to just play Jon Snow or Tywin in the first turn and they do multiple challenges, probably switch out of the late summer feast in the first turn, which is possible most of the time. There are few decks that can defend Intrigue in the first turn by enough to not make you trigger Reigns of Castamere. Yeah, so that tends to do really, really good. Opening with Late Summer Feast. You have the second Late Summer Feast still in your plot deck for after your opponent's reset. You can play Time of Plenty in the second turn if you want, or for the Ram to have another econ plot and put a lot of characters into play, force your opponent to play reset early, and then you can follow that up with Late Summer Feast and just refloat the board. That's the usual way it goes.
All right, and maybe one small thing we can explain for those who haven't played Reigns of Castamere themselves. So the advantage that you get is that Late Summer Feast has the disadvantage of having your opponent letting them draw one card each time you win a challenge. But if you trigger the Reigns, you can basically put on your scheme button for the rest of the challenge phase. This disadvantage no longer holds, and the same is how you get claim in a round where you played Valar Morghulis. And just a minor thing to remember is if you don't play it on the Iron Throne, where it's implemented, is to remember that Late Summer Feast is a forced reaction, and Reigns of Castamere is a reaction, and forced reactions always come first. So no matter who's first player, once the opponent can definitely draw one card, and then you can trigger Reigns, and then hopefully they can't draw any more cards from all the challenge you are winning with this amazing deck.
Yeah, so what I noticed in the past months playing this version or some version of it and running 4 economy plots that it's not that bad. I thought it would be far too many and too few utility plots, but double Late Summer Feast in addition to Time of Plenty and For the Realm is working out really great. Never lets you run out of econ to play that one more big guy you have in your hand to put your opponent under pressure or reflood the board after reset. And for the utility, you still have the Reigns of Castamere plots. So I'm quite happy with running 4 economy plots at the moment.
Yes, I think Night's Watch was one of the factions that benefited the most with For the Realm being released, because they have armies that are playable, of course, their main character that is the most important one, and then backup characters like Ranging Party, and also their location, the 4-cost wall, is a stronghold that is often played, so you almost always get 8 gold from that plot, whereas some other decks, for instance, they would have to play Brand the Builder to search for that pike location and then follow it for the realm, and there is a bit more work to be done with that sequence.
Agreed, yes.
Okay, that's the deck. Really, really nice.
Thank you.
And I have played against early iterations of it a couple of times, and I always find it, so dominating. So, that I wonder, so who else or what kind of decks can you go against and have a good matchup with this?
So if I remember correctly, I'm not that good at remembering specific matchups from the past, if I've won more against them or not. But I think against Greyjoy, I've done quite well with it. Against other big guy decks, tends to do well. Against decks with a lot of non-unique characters, it's really, really good. You can control, I think rush decks are not a problem, like Star Crossing, I think, worked really good in the past. Yeah, those are some strong matchups, I think.
All right, and if Miha gets out his kneel deck. Is that a problem? Do you get shaky knees if he reaches for his deck?
Yeah, I think kneel deck might be problematic because I need to win challenges to stand again. And yeah, that sounds like a problem to me. Yeah, I haven't played against Miha's kneel deck, I think, with this version yet. So yeah, a test might tell.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I lost twice to this type of deck at Starek, so it's
I
it's not
see.
a great matchup for me.
Okay.
And what about other type of control decks? What about icon control, for example, as if you have to win challenges? Or do you have enough characters that it's unrealistic that they basically can control all of them?
Yeah, I think icon control is not that much of a problem. If I remember correctly, I've played against some version of Mortel icon control 2 or 3 times, and it was always just enough icons on the board. So Jeremy Riker is a really key character in that regard to give all your rangers that one more power icon. Yeah, I don't worry that much about icon control, as well as other Mattel reset decks like Knights of the Hollow Hill that also tend to do not so great against Night's Watch Reigns, or at least this deck, because of all the duplicates you can draw, or the card draw you have in general, really gives you legs against attrition decks.
Okay, which is a great advantage for a big guy deck, because usually this is a weak point, right?
Definitely, yeah. After Valar Morghulis and Valar Dohaeris, you tend to be on the back foot, but yeah, works out quite well with this version of the deck.
And if the opponent is just good at passive power, can that be an issue?
Not too sure. Haven't played against a dominance or passive power deck yet, I think. I think the Randall deck is problematic. I think even though you run Political Disaster, the Randall Reach deck just draws still a lot of cards. There's still a lot of duplicates if it's a duplicate-heavy version of that deck. Yeah, haven't played against it yet, I think, but it might be a problematic matchup.
Yeah, so also maybe with Drowned God, it depends if they have a lot of power only on Tal, then you have
Right.
Pointy End as an option, right? So that's a
Correct,
good
yeah.
one. And if it's more spread out, or then it's probably more difficult, but also so probably you stand a chance, but it's not ideal, right?
Definitely, yeah. Which deck
Okay.
is also problematic is the Mamas deck. The Mattel Mamas Fool's deck is really good against this. I think I've only won once against Fools with this deck. The other times they just control it after turn 5 with multiple Prince's plan to get strength up to a bazillion, and then just finishes off with Doran's game, and also the plot cancel pretty much on demand. Yeah, destroys a lot of tricks this deck has to offer, especially Reigns of Castamere in the challenge phase, but also the reset in the plot phase.
Yeah, that's key, right? So if you could force your Morghulis on them with certainty, I think it would be a much more even matchup. But yeah, the fact that you also always have characters on the board, so they can play Calling to the Banners and stuff like that. I can see. Yeah, always at first glance you would say you must roll over those mamas like nothing, but yeah, they can be feisty little buggers.
Definitely, yeah. they're hard to win against.
Yeah. And is it the same like with this Greyjoy Momus that won Starlek?
Not 100% sure. It might be that Greyjoy Mammals might be winnable, but I haven't tested it yet. I think the main advantage or the main disadvantage for this deck is the plot cancel and the strength boosts that Martell Mammals has to offer.
Okay.
Yes, I think that Greyjoy deck relies really heavily on stealthing your characters so that you can auto-pose, but if you have the Feast of the First Man active here, okay, it's not going really high on the reserve, but if that works for you, then a lot of the defenders, of course, still remain, and it's difficult to push those challenges through with all the small guys with Greyjoy.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. So I think we have gotten a really, really nice view on this deck. I also really like that it's Night's Watch Reigns and not aloof and apart, because it gives you that twist. It has that ranger angle, so it seems very versatile, definitely very strong, and absolutely worth playing. Thank you so much for presenting it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present it and talking about it. And I also would like to say thank you to Argento for sharing his deck with me, and to Radek for inspiring me to go the more ranger heavy route with his Night's Watch Prince that was promised deck.
So yeah, always two amazing persons to draw inspirations from, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, I think we saw at Starlek how successful Night's Watch can be at the moment with these big characters, and I'm really happy that we were able to show you this episode and give you some insight into how a deck of this type might be built and what some of the most important decisions are. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you will join us next time as well. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.